like dystopian almost because you're just
Yeah.
like kind of sitting in this atmosphere. So
Yeah. Plus
maybe
the
Shake Shack. Maybe
if you
Shake Shack.
find a place like Shake Shack that, for a while there, they were open 24 hours, which was really cool.
Yeah,
And I enjoy 24-hour places just for that whole reason, like late at
exactly.
night. It's a whole different world.
Hmm.
Do you think that you'll ever try animating something with that theme?
Oh, that's such an interesting question.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Alizarin Cafe. And we have a fantastic guest with us today, a very
Hello.
talented artist, and her name is Sophia Tonin. Say hi, Sophia.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And the first episode? Is this the first episode?
This is the first episode. We are so happy to have you join us. You are so gracious because right now, you and I are talking, what, 3,000 miles apart, I think. Is
Yeah,
that
I think
the
so.
right amount of
It's
distance?
yeah, it's I mean at least a five hour flight, so however much distance that
However
is.
many miles, who's counting? But
Who's
we
counting
know
at this
that
point?
you are in California.
Hmm.
What city are you in?
So I'm in the outskirts of LA. It's a town called Costa Mesa, but I work in Irvine, which is like 10 minutes away.
Oh, wow. And so is that's drivable for you, or do you get to take public transit?
I wish. I no, I have to drive it. I went to San Francisco recently. They have amazing public transportation, and then LA in comparison is like it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like you don't want to take it.
I
So,
know because I went to Toronto, which is 3 hours from Detroit, last year with my family for spring break, and we used public transit the entire time. We drove there,
yeah.
parked our
Yeah.
car, and never used our car again for the whole time that we were there. It was amazing.
Yep. No, it's really and they have that thing too where it's great because in San Francisco you can actually like have the card on your phone. So you just tap like your phone everywhere instead of having like a card. And I'm like,
Brilliant.
man, like and a lot of European cities are like that too. And it's just yeah,
Yeah, because we
it's
went
perfect.
to, it's funny, last year, first we went to Toronto, and then in the summer we chose New York City. And I used
Hmm.
to live in New York, so I was excited to get back, but the whole subway thing was not
Hmm.
fun because like purchasing the tokens
Yeah.
was a hassle because you only had access to machines that were super old and they would take forever and you'd press these buttons and nothing seemed to work and so we couldn't get the thing
Right.
and so then we're like, let's just take a taxi. And it was just,
Hmm.
easy the way it was in other places. So
Yeah.
this is a thing we're talking about. So being in Los Angeles, you're finding that something like public transit could be a little bit smoother just because you went to a neighboring city, San Francisco, and suddenly you're like, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah, and it's the other problem I think is it's notorious, but it's just the traffic in LA that like I personally have found it to be okay. Technically in Orange County, so it's not as bad as like downtown LA. But I also I've been driving to LA quite a bit because I have a bunch of friends in the area, so I've experienced the brunt of the LA traffic as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, so, I told you that this is a very organic type of a program with our conversation, which, is reminiscent of any uh, time that meet up with someone that you know, or even someone that you just met, and you just, you know, sort of ease on into conversation, however it takes its shape. So
Hmm.
today, what I thought I would do for this episode, because you've been so gracious to agree to come back and do another episode with us. So, um, I was going to ask you if we could just kind of go back in time a little bit,
Hmm.
and if you could talk a little bit about, when you and I first met. I know that that was your high school years. So that was quite a while ago, I'm sure, in your
Oh
memory.
yeah. Oh my
Um,
God.
you know, when you think about high school and where you were at that point, one of the things that pops into my head, and I have to mention this, is you said to me, I'm working on a children's book.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
I was floored because, I've been teaching going on 36 years now, and you're, I think, hands down the only student that not only said I'm working on a children's book, but then you actually gave me a copy of that book. And so,
Hmm.
could we talk a little bit about what do you remember feeling at the time when you were at the International Academy here in
Hmm.
the Detroit area? And, it's not a school that promotes art
Not at all.
in a career fashion
No.
format. So
Hmm.
you were sort of the oddball, but it didn't matter because something, I figured out something when I first met you that you were determined. So I'd love to just, turn it back to you for a minute. Talk about the creative process for you at that age.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting, and it's something that as you grow up, you kind of realize is that personal projects can be really like difficult on top of doing everything else that you have to do in your life. I'm seeing that even nowadays when I'm, I have a full-time job and I'm trying to work on side projects. But I think that experience that you're talking about specifically in high school was a great introduction to that because it was so I was part of the International Baccalaureate program. And as part of that, you have to do, I believe that was called the personal project. I forget, oh my God, it's been like, I don't even know how many years it's been like 6 years or something. But I have a lot of fond memories about that because they basically carved out a time in your schedule. So it was like, I think I want to say maybe like two 45-minute classes a week. So not like an insane amount of time, but you still had quite a bit to just do a personal project. And of course, it's academic, so they wrap it up in like, oh, write an essay about your experience, doing whatever. But essentially, they let you do whatever as long as it was constructive, they let you do kind of whatever you wanted to do. And I remember like at the time I had decided I think I had already decided I wanted to go into animation. But I liked art in general.
How old were you at this moment that you're thinking of that you're sort of verbalizing to us?
I want to say I was in sophomore year of high school. So what is that like 15 maybe 15, 16?
That sounds about
Um
right.
yeah,
So
so
wait a minute. At 15 years old, you mean to tell me you had already kind of figured out that animation was an avenue for you?
well, actually, I think it actually happened when I was even younger. I think I was in middle school because, well, so what happened was I'd always loved animated movies. I think I remember thinking it for the first time, I think after watching Frozen and How to Train Your Dragon. Um, whichever one of those came first. I think it was How to Train Your Dragon came first, I think. But either way, I remember watching these movies and there was something like, when you have those moments in life where you just see something and you're like that, like I want to do that for the rest of my life. And I think I'm lucky in a sense because I know, not everyone gets to it like that smoothly for sure,
No,
right? And I'm
no. You are
sure
the minority in this area
I
when it
think
comes to stuff like that.
yeah.
Yes.
And I have no doubt that like as I progress through my career, that'll change. Like I don't know if I'll do animation for the rest of my life, but it's held so far, so and I've loved it since. But I think it was really one of those things that you see and you're like, there's magic in what I'm seeing, and I want to do that. Like I want to make I want to, I want to bring characters to life and it just like I don't know, it just hits you so hard that you're like, I have to do this. Like I have to be part of this. Um,
So
so
was
yeah.
Frozen the film that did it, or were there other films
I,
in
you
addition to
know,
Frozen?
I want to say I remember on top of like the 2D animated movies that I always kind of loved. I watched a lot of them in my childhood, but I remember it clicking. Like I think I remember turning to my parents. I must have been in like seventh grade or something, or whenever that came out. And I very deliberately remember turning to my mom and going like, I want to do that. Like pointing at the screen with How to Train Your Dragon on it and going like, I want to do that.
Wow.
So it was, I'm lucky to say that I had kind of had that moment. Um, and it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it does kind of give you, I think, a goal to work towards in whatever sense that is. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
but
so what did
yeah.
you find yourself, besides the children's book that we were just talking about?
Hmm.
Like, what comes to mind for me if I was someone like you who felt that way, like one of those flip books, where you could just take
Mm-hmm.
a little book, like a notebook that's blank on every page, and then you just draw a little drawing on the end of the page so that when you
Mm-hmm.
flip it, it looks like the whatever you were drawing moves.
Yeah.
And that's like a way to practice. And did you do anything like that, or did you have actual digital programs?
You know what the funniest thing about my journey is when I was in middle school, I was like, I want to do that. And then for the next like 5 to 6 years, I proceeded to do everything except animation. So somehow I would think you know what's funny is animation is for me, it's incredibly challenging. I think the thing that I like about it is I like 2D animation, but I prefer 3D animation because I'm also really tech focused. Actually, I almost went into physics like as a career. Like it was either like animation or physics. So the
Wow.
it's funny because and it's also I think what's kind of saved me because I've seen in college too a lot of people went into it only for the animation, which is totally valid, but you end up gravitating towards 2D a lot of times.
Yep.
Because 2D is a much more organic, pure version of it. Um, and I really like the technological part of it too. So when I was younger, I definitely did like flip books, but not often enough for me to like, really get anywhere with them. So the funny thing is, I think I ended up pivoting towards like I would do art. I remember I would do like like little illustrations, like I would do doodles, things like that. And then obviously it kind of ramped up when I got to high school in the US. But it's really funny because I don't think I had the typical 2D like animation phase that a lot of people do. Kind of pivoted
And we
that
don't really
direction.
know how much of that really even exists these days because
Hmm.
there's so many different variables. Even with people that have access to technology, um, keeping up with the programs as we're learning, the upgrades to the programs are such that like people that used to own Photoshop at one time, which is, not considered a 3D animation, but
Sure.
I'm just speaking
It's
from them.
tech, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
tech. And, way back when Photoshop came about, you literally purchased a disk,
Yeah.
put it into your computer, and you could use that for however
Yep.
long. And then if you wanted to, oh, they have the new version. Yeah, I'll go get that and, upgrade. Uh, but you didn't feel compelled to have to do it. Now you pay a
No.
subscription. You don't even own the program.
Mm-mm.
It's not in your computer, it's in the cloud.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah.
they're always upgrading it and you're always paying a fee every month, and that's the way it goes.
Yep.
So you went from your desire and you kept that desire even though the actual doing of the animation wasn't necessarily accessible at the time.
Yeah, and I think what's also really interesting is like even when I was trying to get into college, a lot of what they kind of judge you on portfolio wise is not actually like very deliberately remember them saying, don't submit animation, which of course I ended up doing. But to be fair, there was I had done a pre-college program with that school, and then that teacher who I believe was one of the people like judging the portfolio reviews told me of the work I'd done. You can submit this. Like I think
Oh, cool.
this would be like
Wow.
was constructive, like, so, but I would not have done it unless I'd had that like direct person, because one of the things that they were telling us is, people will submit like anime or, like all that stuff, which is great, but they're afraid of having to reteach you. So they're afraid that you're gonna come in with almost, in a way, thinking that you already know what you're doing, and then they're gonna have to like break you down. And so anyway, a lot of what they judge is figure drawings, and which is honestly a perfect tie-in because you got me in basically. You're like,
Wow.
the summer. It's true though, like genuinely, I don't know, like, and I'm not just saying this at all, but I think without the intensive and the mentality, I think, that I kind of gained in that intensive, um, I don't know. Certainly, I wouldn't have gotten in with a scholarship, I don't think, but it could even be that I just wouldn't have had the mentality um, to where they would have said, okay, yeah, she's ready for the program. You know what I mean? So it's ironic because to study animation, sometimes you kind of have to spend a while doing just everything but animation, I think. So,
Right, right. And I think that's some of the things that are important. Like for anyone that's going to be listening to this program and hearing your words, people that might be in high school at this
hmm
time that are considering animation, this is an awesome thing to hear you say because you know, it isn't always about that part of it, especially early on. You're trying to build skills of a lot of
hmm
different types that are going to assist you as you progress, right?
hmm
So,
Yeah.
in this particular episode, as I said, we're going back in time. So I wanted to just pick your brain and think about the fact that here you were, this sort of animation, if we could say nerd or geek,
Yep,
right? I mean,
definitely.
artists, we have to accept these titles.
Yes.
But we wear them proudly.
Like a badge of
Uh,
honor. Yes,
I mean, look, only other people that are like you understand.
of
And
course.
so it's really cool when you meet someone else that's geeked out about animation, I'm sure. But so let's go back in time, and here you were uh, living in the Detroit area, going to school. Besides how you felt about art, what were some of your other interests? Like other things that you did, either that were hobbies or just things for fun. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned like I almost went into physics. So that was I was in Science Olympiad. So I was on the physics varsity team in senior year of high school, I think, which is so funny because it's like well, the other thing that was funny about it is it was during COVID. So we were online for a lot of the competitions. And the best part about Science Olympiad is going in person to the competitions with all your
Right.
friends. So it was, it was kind of a bummer, but
Uh,
definitely, physics was really interesting to me, specifically physics as it pertains to motion, which is kind of still related to animation because, all animation is physics in a sense. It's motion. You're manipulating the motion, but it is still motion.
yeah,
And to make it believable, you have to incorporate rules of reality to make people believe it. So that was one interest that I had that kind of blended into what I'm still doing today. But then the other thing is I did archery for I think 5 years of my life,
really. And
which is
was
yeah.
that something that started in high school or prior to high school?
It started in Germany. It started so when I was in middle school or I was in Germany for middle school. So it started I think halfway through middle school, and then I stopped because school started ramping up a little more in my like junior year of high school. Um, but it's funny because it's cringy, it's cliche, but I'm pretty sure I saw The Hunger Games and Katniss Everdeen, and I was like, I'm gonna do that.
That's pretty
So
sweet.
yeah, so yeah, that was my other interest. And then
Hey, so
yeah,
let's
mhm,
go back to Germany for a minute. You mentioned
mhm,
that, and it just jogged my memory that you had an art teacher while in Germany at the school that
yes,
you were attending in Germany.
yes,
That when your family moved back to the States, and here you find yourself at a middle school called the International Academy in Bloomfield Hills, uh, it's the same art teacher. How did that happen?
hmm
Her name was Ashley Marawa, which you
yeah,
and I both know her because
yeah,
she brought me into the atelier in Royal Oak to do some teaching, which we sort of both found this commonality between this person.
hmm
So I'm sure she was very instrumental in supporting your art habit and all that good stuff.
She was like honestly in my lifetime and in my like art career, especially before obviously I went to college and I made a bunch of connections, but you and Ashley were really like the two shining points. It's almost like she started and then she like traded me off to you to like finish the journey. Um,
Right.
but it's true
Tag
and
team.
exactly. But it's true because I was also again I was in Germany and she was American and I'm not, but I grew up like, significant portion of my life I was in the US. So like I also kind of had that mentality. Um, and she was one of the only people in Germany that was had the heart and the charisma, I think, that is sometimes a little bit hard to find in that area of the world, in, in that context. And she was so supportive. And then, as you said, yeah, like my family moved, and somehow she ended up moving to the exact same location. And I still remember driving home one day from high school in the car with my mom, and my mom turns to me and she's like, "So guess who's gonna be your new art teacher next year?" And I was like, "Why would she ask me that? Like, why would do I know other art teachers in this area?" And I was like, "Who?" She goes, "Ashley Morava." And I was like, "No, this is a joke. Like, you cannot possibly be serious."
How
Um,
can that happen?
I
That is
don't
too much
know.
of a coincidence.
At the same school, like across the world, from Germany to Michigan, like, no, it's insane.
Wow.
And
But it made you
yeah.
happy, didn't it?
Oh my God, I was like, yeah, I was like the luckiest person because it was just a taste of home, and I think you go through, like a different culture with, like you have the same different cultural experience, so it just kind of like there's a lot that you understand, I think, and
Yeah.
it was, oh my God, it was insane. It was insane. It was the luckiest thing ever. So,
Well, I'm going to switch subjects for a minute
mhm.
because I want to find out, like, did you have any favorite restaurants in and around the area where you lived in Michigan?
Man, it's a tough question because I do have celiac, so I can't eat gluten.
Okay.
So a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, are kind of off limits. I'd have to say I have great memories of like late at night driving around with my friends and stopping at Shake Shack.
Shake Shack, the
Shake
one over
Shack,
by Great Lakes Crossing.
yes, that one we've gotten a lot. There's also one near Rochester. Um, there's just something about like sitting in a chain restaurant, and it's like late at night with your friends. There's like no one in the restaurant, and you're just
Yeah.
talking about like deep topics. And I think there's something specifically about chain restaurants that makes the whole experience so like dystopian almost, because you're just
Yeah.
like kind of sitting in this atmosphere. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Plus
maybe
the
Shake Shack. Maybe
if
Shake
you
Shack.
find a place like Shake Shack that, for a while there, they were open 24 hours, which was really cool.
Yeah,
And I enjoy 24-hour places just for that whole reason, like late at
exactly.
night, it's a whole different world.
Mhm.
Do you think that you'll ever try animating something with that theme?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I think when I have here's the thing. Right now, I'm in the point in my career where I'm basing the projects that I work on portfolio pieces. So I'm like, what is the like, for example, right now I'm doing a shot of two characters like talking, and there has to kind of be uh like two policemen at a crime scene type of a thing. So, but once I get to a point in my life where I can actually just animate for fun, yeah, why not?
Why
Like
not?
capturing like a really awesome moment. I could see something like super stylized, super like texturized,
Yeah, like
some
just
like
me saying that to
animation.
you, I can tell the wheels are spinning.
The connections are forming,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the
Ah, I can
artist that I
see
love
it. I can
about
totally
you, the
see
art
it.
part. That's so fascinating. Hey, listen, our time is up for this episode, so we want to thank
Mhm.
you, Sophia Tonin, our esteemed
Oh my
guest
gosh.
artist, and we're gonna have you back for another episode because you
Yeah.
agreed to do that. So we thank you so much, and we know that everybody learned so much about the early part of your life. So for our next episode, we'll learn a little bit just after that point. Maybe we'll talk about college then. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So
Thank
I
you.
am Eugene Clark, and this is Sophia Tonin, and we'll see you again. Thanks for joining us on Alizarin Cafe. Bye bye, everybody.